So, Dr. Keener, the miracles, the credibility of the New Testament accounts, from what I've seen, has received a lot of praise. It's even been called the finest book ever written on the topic from people like Ben Witherington III, your colleague. But it seems it had a bit of a modest beginning. You even said it evolved accidentally.
Yes, in my Acts commentary, I was doing research on the historical reliability of Acts because it's a historical monograph, so that's a natural question to ask. But as I was doing that research, one question that comes up naturally is the question of miracles. If it's historically reliable, how can it report miracles if miracles don't happen? And some people say, well, eyewitnesses never claim miracles. So just in a footnote, I was going to cite some volume that would recount many miracles, or at least many eyewitness claims to miracles. But as I began studying it, I didn't find the volume I was looking for. And the footnote grew and grew, and after about 100 pages...
The footnote was 100 pages?
Well, it had ceased being a footnote by then. After it was like almost too large for the page, I began going into more detail, and then eventually became a chapter, and eventually I proposed it as a 200-page book, and it grew about 6 times over after that.
Will you summarize it for me in just a couple of sentences?
The modern prejudice against miracles is that it goes back to David Hume. David Hume said that miracles don't happen, or at least we can never be sure that they happen, because we can't trust any eyewitnesses. There are no credible eyewitnesses who claim that they happen. However, I don't think David Hume could get away with that today, because today we have hundreds of millions of people who claim to have witnessed or experienced divine healing. Whether a person believes in miracles or not, they certainly can't use Hume's argument against miracles a priori. It says uniform human experience tells us that miracles don't happen. That's certainly not uniform human experience.
As I was getting into the book, there was a lot of research from all over, but I know particularly in the Congo, where your wife is from, there were a lot of stories that seemed to be a little bit more personal. In fact, it seemed that this book maybe was more personal than any of your other works.
Gift and Giver was maybe the most personal.
Okay.
But yes, there are definitely many personal elements in the book, because it's one thing to interview eyewitnesses that you don't know. It's another thing to interview eyewitnesses that you do know.
Right.
And you know their credibility. You know that they're telling the truth.
So you interviewed people like your mother-in-law,
Yeah.
your brother-in-law, acquaintances and friends of Madine's family.
Yes. I had never expected the kinds of eyewitness testimony that I got in my wife's country, and as well with some other friends who were eyewitnesses of people being raised from the dead.